Now, when you are having sessions, what is a normal session like for you?
Well, nowadays it's really kind of compartmentalized.
Okay.
A lot of people don't make records in the same room anymore. So me and my production partner Brent, we're the production team Catalyst.
Okay.
And so Catalyst will, we're always making tracks or directly producing artists. Usually when we're directly producing artists, they're here or we're somewhere in a studio with them. But that's not always the case. A lot of times we'll just send out tracks and the artist will, do their thing in their own studio with their own people and send it back to us, and we'll just kind of go back and forth via the internet. Or, sometimes they'll come here. It's never the same thing on any given day. And then I also mix for a lot of people, and in mixing, almost nobody ever comes to mixes anymore.
Wow.
So it's used to be that at least somebody from the label and the producer would be at the mix to approve the mix, but nowadays, I mix for people all over the world, so I just got mixes in from Sony France, and mixes in from Japan, and mixes in from Korea, and all major label stuff from all over the world. Half of it in languages I don't even understand. And I'll, in America too, of course, but so I'll mix for them and send it back to them, and then they'll email me back revisions, and we'll kind of go back and forth like that, tidying up a mix until they love it and sign off on it, and it's final. So, and I do a lot of different things for different people, which keeps, when you work 7 days a week, it helps keep things really interesting, and I work through a lot of different genres too, which helps keep everything interesting. So, I might be getting a call from Kanye one day to produce or arrange something for him. I might get a call from Sony France the next day to mix something for them, and the next day we're writing with an artist here, and the next day I'm making tracks with Brent for Catalyst.
Nice.
So it's
so you have to have many hats in many different genres of music, and
I have very many hats in very many different genres of music. I think one of the really cool things about the way my career has evolved is I have official Grammy nominations as producer, songwriter, mixer, engineer, arranger, studio musician, multi-instrumentalist, vocalist, sample recreator, and all of those things I have Grammy nominations doing. And across many different genres, from like I won, I have credits on 2 Grammy Winners for, CC Winans, for Prey. So I have gospel Grammys, I have pop Grammys for like fun, and I don't have any statues yet, but I've got 13, I've got credits on 13 winners. I've been an official nominee 7 times.
Nice.
So always the bridesmaid. I've two of those. Usher absolutely should have won Album of the Year for Confessions, and Eminem absolutely should have won Album of the Year for The Recovery. But it's the way this business goes, man.
Yeah. So how was that fun project? Did you enjoy it? I know that it was.
Well, I only did a little. I only did a bit piece. I created the big drums on We Are Young.
Okay.
And Jeff Basker and John Janik called me for that, and. You don't say no to those guys, nor would I ever want to. But I've done a lot of stuff for Jeff. I actually did the big drums on the Alicia Keys' "Girl on Fire" for Jeff as well.
Nice.
So, and then after that, I started getting calls from a whole lot of other people. I did big drums for Bruno Mars and for a bunch of people, and then you can start seeing it into your production. People start kind of hiring you as a producer and saying like, "Yo, we need that big drum sound." I'm pretty sure I can handle that.
Is that your signature, the big drums?
Yeah, one of them.
Okay.
I mean, it's. I think a lot of people come close, but there's some real kind of secret tricks of the trade that I've figured out just by having to figure it out. That that anybody with as much tenacity could do the same thing. But fortunately, I think I've cracked the code. But the funny thing about that was the way that we created the big drums on "We Are Young" was completely different process than the way we created the big drums on "Girl on Fire." Big drums started with a real player playing real drums, and Dylan Wissing, who's my studio drummer, played the drums on Girl on Fire. And We Are Young was all kind of layered, you know, one-shot snare hits and kick hits that were all just layer, and kind of sculpting it the way that I wanted them to eventually come out. So it was a completely different process with kind of very similar results at the end.
Wow.
And, you know, that's been a lot of my career, is just being thrown the craziest shit and just figuring out how to do it. That was how my relationship started with Kanye. Was I got this call from G. Roberson and Jay Brown, and this was maybe 2002, and they called me up, and Kanye wasn't an artist yet, or not a signed artist.
Right.
He was certainly an artist, but I didn't know that. And he had done like Izahova and a couple other big things, so I knew who he was, but he was still real young and, you know, new in the business. And G. Roberson and Jay Brown called me up, and they're like, so, do you know this guy named Kanye West? And I'm like, yeah, I know who Kanye West is. Like, yeah, well, we need somebody, he sampled this Paul McCartney and Wings song, and we can clear the publishing, but we can't clear the master. Can you recreate that? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Of course I can. Had never done anything like that in my life. So they sent it over, and I did that and smashed it and sent it back, and they loved it, and they started giving me more of that work, and that led to other roles with Kanye, and writing roles and production roles and arranging roles, and the kind of, you know, here you seem to be able to figure out how to do crazy things, figure this one out. And you know, and then since Kanye started having me do all sorts of like the craziest gigs on earth, you know, other people kind of started finding out about that, and all of a sudden I seem to be like the go-to guy when you can't figure out how to do something and you need it done at a very high level. Then you know, it's kind of like the designated hitter that you know you're going to get some at bats, but you're not going to be like the star player of the project. So it's an interesting thing I've fallen into.
Well, you are a star player. I would say that, you know, just based on your accolades.